We read from Matthew's Gospel, the 2nd chapter, reading from verse 1. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with the gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. When they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said, "take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Then what was said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. "A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, and refusing to be comforted, because they are no more." After Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who were trying to take the child's life are dead." So he got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning in Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Having been warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee, and he went and lived in a town called Nazareth. So was fulfilled what was said through the prophets, that he would be called a Nazarene. Amen. May God bless to us this reading from his word. It had already been hard for them, for Mary and Joseph, the long trek to Bethlehem, the crowded town, no room at the inn. She was desperate, so near to having her baby. And then at last the innkeeper said, "Out the back, in the stable." It had been strange for them, giving birth like that without her mother or sister or a neighbour, just Joseph. He was kind, but he was a carpenter. He was a man. It was strange for poor Mary, and it was strange for Joseph. Given time, he could have fixed up the stable nice and proper like, but this, the birth, the lass needed the help of other womenfolk. He was out of his depth, and he knew it. And then there was no peace and quiet. Rough and hardy men from the fields, shepherds with the smell of the animals about them, came. But at least they were working men like himself, and he knew how to speak with them. But then came the Magi, the kings, the wise men. With them he could smell the money, and the power, and the learning too. These guys would know inside out things that he didn't even know existed. All that was stressful enough. But then he had this dream. An angel came to him in the dream and said, "Get up and go. Take the child and his mother and head off to Egypt because Herod is going to kill him." Now, 9 months ago, Joseph would have laughed at himself for having such stupid dreams. But that was before Mary started talking about the special baby, and they both knew it wasn't his. That was before he had the first of these dreams, the one where the angel said, "Don't be afraid to take her as your wife." And as we said, he'd been through it all. Shepherds who'd seen angels, and he knew the shepherds were down-to-earth men. And then the kings, wise men, magi, whatever they were. By now, when Joseph had a dream and an angel spoke to him, Joseph listened. Just when things can't possibly get any worse, they get worse. And off they go, fugitives on the run. When things can't possibly get any worse, that's exactly what happens. Do you know that feeling? Just when you've got through Christmas in this year of COVID, just ahead looms January with cold weather, fuel bills, and goodness what else. And it's a long, long way yet to spring. And that's when all the Christmas magic vanishes. That's when all that's been conjured up in our midwinter extravaganza, even our toned down one this year, all disappears. All that disappears. But that's not when the Christmas story vanishes. That's not when the story of God with us vanishes. And it's not when the story of God with us in the tough times vanishes. Listen to this reflection, which might have been written by Mary. It's entitled, "The Mary of Your Christmas Cards." I am the Mary of your Christmas cards. I listen calmly while the angel brings me news that will shake my life beyond all measure. I accept what has been ordained for me. I am young and dressed in blue. I am the Mary of your Christmas cards. Despite travelling almost 100 miles on a donkey across a desert and giving birth in a stable, I am still immaculately clean and tidy, cradling my infant son, unperturbed by my surroundings. I am still young and dressed in blue. I am the Mary of your Christmas cards. I am the Mary of your Christmas cards, welcoming shepherds from the nearby fields and strangers from afar, the person who treats such events as if they happened every day, calmly pondering on them in my heart. I am still young and dressed in blue. But is this really me? Do you have any picture of me beyond that of Christmas cards? Where is your picture of me in the temple, as Simeon tells me how a sword would pierce my soul? The angel brought greetings and told me not to be afraid, so I am calm on your Christmas cards. But do you never see the terror in my eyes as I hear Simeon's haunting words? And I do fear what is to come. Maybe you do have a picture of me 12 years later, but have I aged in your eyes? Am I calm and serene, frantically searching for my son, lost on return from the temple? He was calm, but not I. I was frantic. Do you have a picture of me 30 years after your first picture of me? Am I still dressed in blue? Are there lines on my face? Is my hair now grey? Do you see me at the wedding feast, recognizing deep within that his time was coming and he would soon be no longer mine? Do you see me hurt by his rejection when he declared that all the world was his mother and his brother and his sister? I knew that he had a great purpose, but do not imagine that there was no pain for me in this. How I aged in those 3 years. But am I still young in your picture? Was I not grey-haired as I stood at the foot of the cross? Do you know what it takes to watch your son being crucified? Some parents still do. As they pierced his side, my soul too was pierced. Do you have a picture of me in tears, distraught at the anguish of my son? Or am I still the Mary of your Christmas cards? They laid him in the tomb. It seemed so final. It seemed I had lost him forever. Where was the angel now to tell me not to be afraid? My fellow countrywomen kept vigil. I was not alone in mourning. But you who know what happened next, do you let me grieve for the end I thought I'd reached? You know the end. You know the triumph of his resurrection, the kingdom without end. And knowing this affects your picture of me, I remain always young and dressed in blue, calm and serene, humble and willing, never allowed to show fear, hurt, anger, pain, or grief. For many, I remain the Mary of Christmas cards. But if I am to be called blessed, please remember all that I stand for. And as you receive your cards this Christmas, please look at me and remember that this is not just the beginning. The Jesus story isn't just for the coziness of Christmas. The Jesus story is for every dark and difficult day and corner of life as well. Christmas is Emmanuel. God is with us. Amen. We now listen to Graham Kendrick and his hymn or song, Thorn in the Straw, which reminds us that the story does not end at Christmas.